welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since we've done a couple of videos like this. Today I'm going to be doing a 2024 NHL Mock Draft. I'm trying to get some more videos out like this, some NHL rankings, prospect pools, all that sort of stuff over this summer. So we'll get right into the mock draft. Couple little notes. This is not what I would take at these spots. This is what I think will happen. And also, no trades in this mock draft because those really impossible to predict until draft day comes around. So let's get right into it. First overall pick, no brainer. I mean, is there really anything to think about? It's Macklin Celebrini. He's going number one, no doubt. Franchise superstar for the San Jose Sharks. He's going to fit so well with Will Smith, William Eklund, and the great prospect pool they have. This is a home run hit for the San Jose Sharks. Second overall, things are already kind of tough. If I was the Blackhawks, I'd be taking Ivan Demidov here. Your Batman is Connor Bedard, and he needs a Robin. I think that would be Ivan Demidov. He's the perfect playmaking player to put next to Bedard on his wing. It's a perfect fit, but from everything that's going around in the rumors, it seems like the pick they're going to take will be Artem Levshunov, who is by no means a bad pick. Artem Levshunov is going to be a fantastic player, a right shot, two-way defenseman who can play great in his own end and also has great skill at the other end of the ice. It's a perfect fit next to Kevin Korchinski on the blue line. But I'd be taking Demidov because I think it helps to develop Bedard. Bedard's your guy. I think Demidov's a better fit to improve your team. But then again, wingers like that might come around more often. I can see the need or the want for Levshunov. And then at 3, that makes Anaheim's life pretty easy. There's a lot of talk about Demidov slipping, but I can't see it. I can't see the Ducks passing on Demidov here. They do have a pretty stacked forward core, but it's more so stacked out the middle with guys like McTavish, Zegras, and Cutter Gauthier. They don't have a ton of wingers, so I think getting Demidov would be a great winger fit, and they also are looking to trade Trevor Zegras. They're almost going to get younger and retool the rebuild and get their prospect pool younger, so I think Demidov is a good fit there. He'll fit really well alongside the power forwards such as McTavish and Cutter Gauthier. Number 4, the 4th overall pick, the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're in a tough spot because they're really stacked prospect-wise at both ends, on the back end and up front. They just aren't really using them the right way. So where will a prospect be able to find a role on this team? I'm really not sure. So that's why it's so tough. They've got 2 great left shot defensemen in their system in David Jiricek and Denton Mateychuk. Those 2 are fantastic. And up front, so many good prospects. Gavin Brindley, Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Chinnikov, Marchenko, Voronkov. So I do think they'll go defensemen. Again, in my world, I'd probably be going Sam Dickinson. I think Sam Dickinson is an amazing defense prospect, was so good in London this year, plays such a good shutdown game, and also is pretty good offensively. But I expect the pick here will be Anton Silyev. He seems to be an NHL scout's dream. He's 6'7", he skates very well, he's good in his own end, he's good offensively. He's just, I think he's not as tuned up in terms of pure skill as a guy like Sam Dickinson, but I still expect that to be the pick. I don't think he falls too far in the draft. Then at 5th overall, the Habs have a simple need. They need a centerman. They have Nick Suzuki. They have basically nobody else in the system that can play center consistently, so I think they'll take Caden Lindstrom. Bit of injury concerns, but a big power forward center is a perfect fit. You know, Slavkovsky on one line, Caden Lindstrom on another line, really gives you a lot to work with. I think Lindstrom is a home run hit here for the Habs. Then the Utah Hockey Club. Utah still picking at the top, as they always are. A lot of good options here. I think they probably lean defense. They don't have a ton in the system for the defense core. They've got some good up front. Logan Cooley, Josh Doan played very well at the end of the season for them. Dylan Gunther's really good. They did draft Dmitry Simashev last year. I think they double dip and go back to a defenseman this year and take Sam Dickinson, ending his slide. I think that's a perfect fit there, and I think the Sens are really annoyed that they didn't get a guy like Sam Dickinson at that 7th overall pick. Because with the Sens, you're looking at a defenseman, no doubt. You have a stacked forward core. They just need to develop. You need a defenseman. The issue is you need a defensive defenseman. And the top defensive defenseman left on this board right now, Zeev Boom, is great in his own end. And then it falls off. And you got to go to... It's a tough spot for the Sens because you want a defensive defenseman, but you don't want a left shot. And Zeev Boom's a left shot. You have Chikrin, Shabbat, Sanderson as your left shots. You need a right shot guy, but the right shot guys are all offensive. It's really a tough boat for the Sens, But I do still think they'll just take the right shot because they need a right shot defender. They have Artem Zub, who's solid, but he's a second pair guy. I think if you can get Zane Parekh, who I have them taking here, you're in a good spot. Parekh can play alongside Sanderson. Parech's really, really dynamic offensively. He just needs to hone his skills in his own end. Then you can play Chychrun and Zub and Shabbat wherever you want, or maybe you move a guy like Chychrun. That's been a big rumor around the league, is that Chychrun might get moved. I wouldn't do it, but I think Parech's a good fit. Hone up that right side, balance out your D-core a little more. Seattle Kraken. They are another team in desperate need of a defenseman. A lot of teams in this draft need defensemen. This is a great defense class. So I think Zeev Boom goes here to the Seattle Kraken. Their prospect pool is really good up front. Beniers had a down year, but he's still a talented young player. Shane Wright's developing slowly but surely. Jagger Fergus was fantastic in the WHL this year. They have a good forward prospect pool. I mean, you even had Carson Raykop showed out at the World Juniors, and Edward Saul, who they took first round last year. They need a defenseman. Zeev Boom's a great fit to be that franchise piece in the back end to hopefully develop and then maybe play alongside a guy like Vince Dunn. This is a great pick for Seattle. Calgary, this is tough because Tidge Iginla's on the board. And if you're Calgary, are you really going to risk passing on Jarome Iginla's kid? It really, maybe it's a nepo pick, but Tidge Iginla's a great player. You're not getting a bad player by any means. I personally would go Berkeley Catton. He's fantastic, but I think Tidge isn't quite as good, but I think you're willing to take that risk because if Tidge Iginla gets drafted a pick below you, pops off, you're never going to hear the end of it as a Calgary GM. So I think Craig Conroy, this is the safer pick for him. Take Tidge Iginla. It's a great storyline. I think everyone wants to see it, so I think it's a really realistic shot that Tidge makes it to number 9. 10th overall. Now we're getting to some teams that I think will likely look to trade their picks, like the Devils and the Sabres, the next 2 picks here. Since we're doing no trades here, the Devils, best player available if you're a team like this, you don't have a certain need. Your D-core is great and young. Your offense core is great and young. So take best player available, and that's Berkeley Catton without question. Berkeley Catton is fantastic. He's had one of the best draft years in WHL history. And people just aren't talking about him like he's an elite prospect. I think Berkeley Catton is fantastic. Great speed, great off the rush, really dynamic offensively. He's a home run hit here for the New Jersey Devils. Now the Sabres, I think they're a lot more likely to trade their pick than the Devils are because they have almost too many prospects. They need some win now pieces. I mean, up front, they've already got a pretty stacked top 6, likes of Jeff Skinner, Tage Thompson. They've got Alex Tux up there, Dylan Cousins, Zach Benson, Matt Savoy's in their system, Yuri Kulich in their system, Noah Ostlund in their system, Isaac Rosen in their system. So many forward pieces that you can't really take anymore. They do have great deep pieces too. Dahlin, Power, Samuelson, Johnson, Byram now. Great D pieces too, but I think you have a little bit more room to work with on the defense side. But the tough thing is most of the top defensemen have gone. So you're in a really tough spot here as the Sabres. I think it's a for sure. I think if there's a team that's going to trade their pick, it's 100% the Buffalo Sabres. But I do think, I think they're another team with a lot of left shot defensemen. I think you take Carter Yakimchuk. Not great in his own end. He's really not that great defensively, but he can play really, really good offensive-minded hockey for a defenseman. And you've got a guy like Owen Power who can play shutdown hockey. Dahlin's great both ways. Samuelson plays great shutdown hockey. I think you can afford to take a guy who might lack the offensive side, the defensive side of the puck every now and then. Philadelphia Flyers. I think most people would be expecting they were going to be picking a lot higher than this, but still on a bad spot. You're still in that edge of the elite talent in this draft class. You're taking guys a little more risky that might not pan out, and I think the top player at this spot would be Consta Helenius. Really good prospect. I think he's on par with a lot of the guys taken above him. This draft class is filled with guys that are at that 5 to 15 talent range. I think Consta Helenius falls into that grouping. He might not have the top end talent that a lot of these guys expect. Didn't have the best junior tournaments, but he's been playing really well in the men's league over in Finland, the Liga, and he's been on the world championship teams for Finland the past couple of years. So I think Helenius will be a great fit, and I think he'll mesh very well in the NHL level. Minnesota Wild are up next. Another team, they're kind of, you could go anywhere. They don't really have a big-time prospect pool. They're looking for a win now, I would expect Peace. But where do you go? It's really tough for them. I think, yeah, the top defensemen are pretty much all gone. The only one I consider at this spot is Adam Jiricek. I don't think Kiviaru's on that level. I don't think Cole Hudson's on that level. So I think you go offense. I think Minnesota Wild, who could use pretty much anything, offense is likely where you go. And Cole Eiserman. I'm going to stop the slide for Cole Eiserman. He's one of the most polarizing prospects in this draft. This shot is fantastic. One of the best shots that has ever come out of the USNDP. He's fantastic. He broke the all-time record, 4 goals scored in the U.S. National Development Team program. It's unbelievable what he can do in the offensive zone. The problem is what he does in the defensive zone and when out with the puck not on his stick. Sometimes it seems lazy, doesn't make the full back check, kind of just doesn't give you a whole lot beyond the shot. But if he can hone on his skills and get that mental side up and do things outside of his shot, he's going to be a star in the league. I could easily see him scoring 40 to 50 goals in the NHL. It's more a matter of will he be able to do the rest of the things you expect out of a top-tier prospect. Now the San Jose Sharks, with the pick they got from the Pittsburgh Penguins, got Macklin Celebrini at 1. I think they're going to be the team that takes Adam Jiricek, brother of David Jiricek. He slipped in the draft due to a torn ACL he suffered at the World Juniors, but I think he's a very good defense prospect, and the Sharks are in desperate need of that. The only real guy they have in their system is Shakir Mukhamadullin, who's great. He'll be on the NHL level next year, but you need another defense prospect, and I think this is a good spot to hone in on that. There's not a ton of super crazy good offensive players, so I think you take the best defenseman available, which is Adam Jiricek. The Detroit Red Wings up next here at 15th overall. A team the Yzer plan is interesting. It's working, and the prospects he takes are always good, but there's always a hint of doubt. I feel like they're a team that'll take a guy that you don't expect them to take, and you go, really? But then it's like, oh well, yeah, Yzerman took it, and Yzerman, he knows his prospects, and he's earned a lot of credit in that area. So I think they're going to take a guy who might be a bit of a project. He's been rumored to go even higher than this, to the Habs possibly. That's Beckett Seneca. A really talented player who is looking to, like, he could grow even more, which is a big thing. He's already 6'2", but he grew, I think it was around 4 to 5 inches over the last year. And it was tough for him to get into that, to adjust to that size. You know, you're playing your whole life as a 5'10", undersized hockey player, and then all of a sudden you're 6'2", and you're the biggest guy on the ice at the junior levels. So it was a tough adjustment for him, but he had a really good end of the year, and I think teams are expecting that sort of trend to continue as he grows into his body. So I think that's a Red Wings type pick, a guy who might be touted a little lower or a little higher depending on where you look. I think the Red Wings are willing to take a shot on that. Next, the St. Louis Blues. They had 3 firsts last year and used all of them. They've got a decent prospect pool, nothing spectacular on either end. So I think best player available here, that would be, in my opinion, is probably Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard. I think that would probably be the pick they would take. None of the other guys stand out very much above Brandsegg-Nygaard. He's one of the best, I think he is the best prospect Norway's ever produced. I think he's the only first-round pick they'll have ever produced because he's 100% going in the first. He's so fantastic. He single-handedly willed them to the top tier in the juniors this year and was really good on a team that didn't have a lot of help. And he was really good at the World Championships too for Norway. Brandsegg-Nygaard is a really talented player who has shown he can play really well with not a lot of help around him. Takes us to the first team that is from the playoffs. That's the Washington Capitals. I think they probably look to for some help on the back end. It's more a matter of where they look. They don't have a ton on the back end. Ryan Chesley's they're really the only piece, but they have a lot up front. You've got Ryan Leonard last year. Hendrix Lapierre played well. Connor McMichael played well. Miroshnichenko looks pretty solid as well. So I think they look at the back end, try and hone up that defense pool. You can go Cole Hudson, similar to Lane, just not. I don't think he's as offensively skilled as Lane Hudson, but undersized, not the best defensively. Aaron Kiviaruhu was the guy for a while, like way leading up to this draft, and sort of just injury troubles. He hasn't played to the level people expected. He's started to slip. And then the next guy for me would be all the way down here. It's Charlie Ehrlich, really good shutdown defenseman. So he could be the guy. I think it's worth taking the risk on Kiviaru. The talent is obviously there. The upside is there. He's a guy like Brad Lambert a couple of years ago who was really highly touted neck and neck as the top prospect in this draft and then slipped. They also both happened to be Finnish and didn't perform so well at the World Juniors or the Finnish U18s, but Kiviaru is a talented player if he can stay healthy and hone his skills that were so highly touted a few years back. I think Kiviaru could be a big steal in this draft. Next, the Chicago Blackhawks, who traded up a couple spots with the Islanders a couple weeks ago to get this pick, and they took Artem Levchinov at number 2. They now need a forward in my eyes. You have great defense, you have great forwards. They're really pretty well-rounded in their prospect pool, but I think forward is where you look, especially with the guys on the board here. There's some really solid pieces available, and to me, the best piece, Liam Greentree, solid scoring forward from the CHL, who played very well in Windsor. I think he could be a solid piece, maybe playing second, third line alongside the likes of Frank Nazar and Oliver Moore. So a solid pickup there for the Blackhawks. And you have the Vegas Golden Knights actually making their first round pick. They made one last year, but instantly traded that pick for the David Edstrom, the player, for Thomas Hertl. But I expect they'll take this pick and hold on to it for a little bit and see what they can get. It's more a matter of where do they look to use it on. This is kind of a tough spot to be in for Vegas. I think Vegas is a team that can afford to take this risk, and that is taking Trevor Connolly. Connolly is a super talented player. He's very, very talented. Lots of skill with this player, but there's been a lot made about potential character concerns with him off the ice. But I think again, Vegas is a team that can take the high upside risk. Connolly is still a talented player, and he has honed in on that mental side of it in the last year, I believe. So Connolly is a good player, and I think Vegas can take the risk that maybe he doesn't quite pan out the way you expect him, because you win now, and all odds are they probably trade Connolly at some point if he starts to develop very well. Next up, the Islanders, who traded back with the Blackhawks. They're in such a weird spot. They don't have a great prospect pool, but they don't have a great team either. They're kind of in no man's land. So you kind of got to take the safe pick here. Take a solid player. Just get a piece. Their decor is pretty good. They need someone who can turn out offensively, I'd imagine, even if it isn't right away. I think Igor Chernyshov out of Russia, he's the next best Russian prospect. Skilled power forward type build. He's really solid, and it's just they need a forward. I think he's the best one on the board, and I think they need a guy. I think he's probably the closest, one of the guys that might be the closest to getting to the NHL level. A lot of these other guys, Ryder Ritchie, Emil Hemming, Sasha Boiver, Tarek Parasak, I don't think they're quite ready. They have a lot to hone in on playing in the CHL. A guy from Russia, if he gets signed in the NHL, likely to be quicker to develop, I believe. LA Kings up next at pick number 21. And LA, another team in a weird spot. They kind of their prospects have all gotten to the NHL level, and now they're just kind of recycling back up that prospect pool. And a lot of the teams down here, when you get down to this level, at the bottom of the first round, you're going best player available at pretty much all times, because you just need someone who's likely to pan out, someone who could maybe be a difference maker for you at the next level sooner rather than later. So I think this will stop. This is Cap Friendly's rankings here. They have Boisvert at 13. I'm going to stop his slide here, have him going to the LA Kings, and again, best player available. Just got to take a shot on a guy and hope you get a steal at this pick, because the players there's not a ton of players that always pan out from the 20 to 30 range. They're a lot riskier. You never know what you're going to get. I think this is a solid pick for LA, just a safe pick. Nothing too crazy here. Nashville up next, and this is another tough position to be in. There's still a lot of talented players in this board. Still a lot of players that are worth taking the first round pick on. It's more a matter of where do they need to improve, what do they need to change with their roster, with their prospect pool as a whole. And they took Joakim Kamel last year. He stopped his slide. So they have a decent prospect pool. I'm really unsure where they would want to go. So seems like they're the best player available. I think they'll go defense. they've been having some issues with contracts. They haven't been able to keep a lot of the guys around. And Alexander Carrier is probably going to leave this offseason. Dante Fabro in and out of the lineup, who really knows? So take Cole Hudson. I think he's by far the best defenseman available right now, in my opinion. So take a shot on him. Maybe you can develop him. Barry Trotz, he's got an eye for talent. He'll find a guy who's very, very talented at this spot. No doubt about that. Now the Leafs and Brad Treliving's first full offseason as the GM here. And Treliving has a style. He likes the bigger bodies. He likes the guys who can play physically, play that up speed, up tempo, but also bring the body. So I don't think they go for a couple of these undersized forwards that are left here. I think they'd go all the way down here and take Maxime Massé out of the QMJHL, solid centerman. The Leafs, I think this is just a Brad Treliving type pick, the best big player on the board, and that sort of just fits the scheme they're going for. Colorado up here at pick number 24. A lot of options for them. They actually have an underrated prospect pool considering how good they've been recently, but I mean, a lot of guys. Kovalev came up and played a little bit before getting hurt. He's solid. Callum Ritchie was fantastic this year in the OHL after slipping in the draft. You have Oscar Olausen still. Mikhail Guliev was one of their first round picks last year as well. Really solid prospect pool considering how good the team actually is. So they're very good at drafting. I think they're going to take Michael Hage here. He didn't play. He played for the Chicago Steel, and he tore up the league. The problem is he was playing in the USHL, so it's not on the same level as the CHL in terms of talent, or he wasn't playing at the NCAA level quite yet. But a very talented player who did tear up that league. Played alongside Macklin Celebrini last year, and Celebrini has nothing but great things to say about Michael Hage, so I think it's a good fit, and I think he's one of those guys who could be a real talent, a real steal, and Colorado tends to find those guys a lot. And now next up, the Sens. They took a defenseman earlier with Zane Parekh, and there's a couple different options. You could double dip at the back end, but I doubt they do that because as much as their forward core is good and young and talented, the prospect pool up front, not so good. Really led by Zach Ostapchuk, who's solid but nothing special. Tyler Boucher has just been the opposite of what you want out of a 10th overall pick. So I think they go up front here. A couple decent pieces available. I think they probably go, though, to Emil Hemming. Grab a scoring winger who can kind of do it all on the wing, but they don't need a center. They have so many centermen. They need a guy who can just play the wing. I think that could be a good fit in Emil Hemming. The Habs up and next. They took Caden Lindstrom up at the 5th overall spot. I think they're going to stick up front because their D-core, their D prospect pool is very, very good. David Reinbacher last year. Lane Hudson is one of the best prospects in hockey. Caden Gooley was fantastic. Character concerns and other issues aside, Logan Mayu's been solid development-wise, so they're pretty set up at the back end. So I think they take the best forward available, and it's a tough pick between Parasak and Basha. Basha was highly touted heading into this year, didn't have quite the year people expected. Parasak is probably the opposite way. His big issue is he's not the smoothest skater, and since you took a power forward type, I wouldn't say that's what Parasak is, but not the fastest kind of player. I think they take Andrew Basha, who can play a different style like that. I think Basha will be a better fit alongside the team you already have and gives you something you don't already have. So it's a different type of player, a playmaking, scoring, just kind of jack of all trades offensively kind of thing. Nick Suzuki plays a two-way game. Lindstrom and Slavkovsky power forwards. Cole Caulfield's your pure goal scorer. I think Basha can just fill a bit of a need for the future for the Habs. And now the Carolina Hurricanes. If Michael Hage was on the board here, the Hurricanes would 100% be taking him. Or if there was a top Russian on the board, because that is the Hurricane style. They take the under-scouted, the under-looked-at player, Bradley Nadeau last year, or they take a stud Russian. They have so many good Russian prospects in their system. Alex Nikishin's amazing. They're really... They scout so well, but it is interesting now that Don Waddell's gone. Will it change? I doubt it, because they did hire a GM internally, so I think they'll stick to their guns and do what they typically do. And I think they take EJ Emery, big defenseman. Again, not a highly scouted guy, not a guy who's super way up boards, but I think it's just a guy that fits the way Carolina drafts. They already, it's similar to a guy like Scott Morrow in their prospect system already. The big defensive defenseman, I think Emery could be a solid fit. Calgary up next. They took Tidge Ginla at that 9th overall spot. They need a defenseman. Jeremy Poirier, I think, is the only real defenseman in their system, and they traded away a lot of their top real defensemen this year with Chris Tanev going, Nikita Zadorov going. Who knows what Rasmus Anderson's future in Calgary is. So I think they 100% go defenseman here. Probably would have loved EJ Emery, but I think they're going to take Charlie Elick, the big shutdown defenseman, out of Brandon. He'll be really solid. A guy who, he's not as big as Nikita Zadorov, but maybe more like a Chris Tanev, just pure defense. He's not going to bring a lot offensively, but he'll play a really, really good defensive game. Also a right shot, which is huge in today's NHL. Dallas Stars up next. They're another team fantastic at drafting. A lot of these top-tier teams, they really know what they're doing with these late-round picks. Dallas always finds a steal. They're going to pick someone that nobody expects them to pick. And there's a lot of guys that I like at this spot. A lot of guys that could be the Dallas Stars pick. Jet Luchenko down the board here is really solid. Teddy Stiga's solid. Luka Misa is very solid. Tanner Howe is a questionable player. He's undersized, did really well with Bedard, didn't do quite so well on his own this year in Regina, but that Regina team was just not that good. So who knows? Radel Ritchie and Parasak. But it's really a tough pick for what Dallas will do. I expect whoever they take will pan out to be a fantastic player because that's just how the Dallas Stars work. I'm going to have them taking Jet Luchenko, though. I think this pure gut feeling on the Stars. Again, they take great prospects. They're so good at drafting. Jet Luchenko is going to be the guy. 3 picks left here. The New York Rangers. They grabbed Gabe Perreault last year, a really solid pick late in the first. And it's tough to say where they might go next. They don't have a really crazy prospect pool because they've been good. That's sort of the way it goes. But they kind of have holes everywhere to fill. Likely probably seeing Cabo Caco on his way out. I think they'd probably go defense and take Henry Muse here. I'm a big fan of Henry Muse's game. Maybe that's just because he's the Auto 67s guy, but he's really good offensively. One of those many defensemen. This is sort of the way defense prospects are trending, which is why it's so valuable to get one of those defensive guys. But defense prospects, they don't play as good defense as you would want. They're a lot more offensively skilled. They play very good offensively with smooth skating and power play quarterbacks and all that sort of stuff. That's what Henry Muse is. He's kind of your new age defense prospect. Offensively gifted, needs to hone up the defensive side of things, though. Last 2 picks, the Philadelphia Flyers. This pick from the Florida Panthers on Claude Giroux deal. And really tough spot, although I think that the Cup final's not over yet, but if all things go as they've been going, Flyers will be taking 32 and Ducks will be taking 31 because I think that's how it'll go. I want the Oilers to come back and make it a series, but the Panthers are looking amazing so far. So Philly with their pick in this world where they're picking 31. Again, not a ton left. This is really, there's a few big names left. The biggest guys, Barasak, Ritchie, Howe, Pettersson, and Misa. And Teddy Stiga is solid too, but I'd say Misa is a little bit better in my books. So I think both these teams, the Ducks and I think that the Flyers will take Barasak, and I think the Ducks, since they took a forward up at the top, they took Demidov, who fell to them. I think they'll take the best defenseman left, and that's Salino Wallenius out of Sweden, one of the top prospects out of Sweden. There's not a ton of top prospects out of Sweden this year, but he's one of the top ones. So there's the first round of this year's mock draft. I'll have a full board coming up here. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you would change. If there's a player you think should go higher, lower, team picking the wrong guy, let me know down below. And I'll be sure to have tons of more content coming out over the summer with free agency coming up, all the trades that'll happen, big time stuff. It's a fun time to be in the NHL. I love the NHL offseason, rankings, prospects, trades, free agency. I'm going to have it all. See you next time.